The old stone farmhouse stood sentinel against the crashing Atlantic waves, its windows like vacant eyes staring out at a sea that held more secrets than any sailor dared to whisper. My grandmother, Maeve, never spoke of the land before my 21st birthday. Now, the truth is a banshee's wail in my blood. A chilling legacy I must confront. I'm Saoirse, and like my mother before me, I was raised in the bustling heart of Boston. Ireland was always a summer dream, a place of rolling green hills and ancient castles, spun into fairy tales by my dad. But those tales always ended before dark. We visited her family every year in County Clare. My mother, Siobhan, would smile at her boisterous siblings and doting mother, but her eyes held the Atlantic's gray unease. My brothers, Liam and Ronan, were always eager to explore the farmlands, to help with the sheep, and listen to the local stories in the pubs. I loved the music and the scenery, but a shadow of wrongness always hung over the place. The villagers were welcoming, yet their smiles never quite reached their eyes, as if a shared secret bound their tongues. One sweltering summer, when I was 12, my uncle, Kieran, a man of few words and a haunted gaze, invited me to witness the birth of a calf on a neighboring farm. I was thrilled. Country life, the miracle of birth. But as we drove down the winding lane, a palpable shift occurred. The air grew thick, the birds fell silent, and the setting sun painted the landscape in hues of blood and shadow. The hedgerows, usually a vibrant green, seemed to writhe in the fading light, their tangled branches like skeletal fingers reaching out to clutch us. A chill wind, unusual for the summer evening, swept across the fields, carrying the scent of damp earth and something else. Something ancient and indefinable, like the breath of a long-dead thing. At the farm, the air crackled with a tension I couldn't name. Gruff men, their faces etched with worry, spoke in hushed tones with my uncle. My cousin, Niamh, usually a whirlwind of energy, stood deathly still, her gaze fixed on something in the barn's shadows. Kieran's brother, Seamus, barked at me to stay close. He had a shotgun cradled in his arms, the metal gleaming ominously in the twilight, and his eyes darted nervously towards the darkening fields. Drawn by a morbid curiosity, I slipped away. Inside the barn, the scene was both grotesque and heartbreaking. A red cow lay laboring, her flanks heaving. Her breath came in ragged gasps, misting in the cold air, and her eyes rolled back in her head with pain. But it was the calf that stole my breath. It was stillborn, slick with afterbirth, but its tiny body. It wasn't right. The head was that of a calf, but the limbs, the torso, they were unmistakably human. Its tiny hands, curled into fists, seemed to clutch at the air, as if pleading for a life it had never had. Its skin was pale and translucent, stretched taut over its unnatural form, and a network of delicate blue veins pulsed beneath the surface. Niamh found me there, her face ashen. "You weren't supposed to see that," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It's the way of the land. It's always been the way." Her words hung in the air, heavy with resignation and a hint of fear. Hours crept by. A strange vet arrived, a man with eyes that held centuries of sorrow. Whispers followed him like the wind. He moved with an unsettling calm, his touch gentle yet firm as he examined the creature. He carried a worn leather bag, from which he produced strange instruments of gleaming silver, tools that seemed more suited to an ancient ritual than modern medicine. The other farmers watched him in silence, their faces grim and expectant. We were left with Niamh in the cold tractor, the night air heavy with unspoken dread. The only sound was the wind whistling through the cracks in the metal and the distant, mournful cry of a curlew. Finally, Niamh relented, the secret burning in her like a brand. "It happens every few years," she said, her voice barely a breath. "The animals, they give birth to these things. We bury them, quickly, silently. It's a curse, a sickness in the blood of the land." She spoke of ancient bloodlines and twisted inheritances, of a land where the old ways still held sway. Then she told me the old stories of pacts made with ancient gods, of a land stained by rituals and sacrifice. My mother's fear, her desperate refusal to ever move back, suddenly made sense. This wasn't just about remote farms and a slower pace of life. This was about survival. It was about a darkness that clung to the land like the sea mist, demanding appeasement. That night, Kieran drove me back to the farm. The headlights of the Jeep illuminated the winding road. Uncle Kieran spoke, his voice rough. "This land is old, Saoirse, older than your Boston, older than any concrete or steel you know. And it remembers everything. It remembers the blood spilled, the promises broken, and the things that walk in the shadows when the sun goes down. His words were a warning, a chilling reminder that we were not the only inheritors of this land. I learned the truth that night, the truth my mother tried to shield me from. The curse wasn't confined to Clare or even to Ireland. It stretched across the generations, a twisted thread woven into the very fabric of our family history. And the worst part? Sometimes they live. Years later, the whispers have followed me. I returned to Ireland, drawn by a need to understand my heritage and confront the darkness clinging to my family's roots. And what I've learned is far more terrifying than any childhood nightmare. The creatures are real, the curse is spreading, and the secrets of the Emerald Isle are far from over. The veil between worlds is thin here, and the old gods are not easily forgotten. They hunger for what was promised and will not rest until the debt is paid. The land itself seems to conspire with them, the very stones whispering warnings, the wind carrying their mournful cries across the desolate moors.